clear? All right. So basically, tonight's webinar is about the Plantation Afterlives, songs, memories, and politics of care. And I'm Bharati Selva. It's a pleasure to be the moderator for this session. This event is part of the webinar discussion series organized by Pusat Sejarah Rakyat, People's History Center, an independent archive and historical research center dedicated to documenting, preserving, and reimagining grassroots histories in Malaysia and Singapore. Right? Do visit pusatsejarahrakyat.org and follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to explore their ongoing projects and archival work. Also co-organized under the Banana Tree, a Southeast Asia-based collaborative archival network that connects community archives, researchers, and cultural workers to share methodologies and stories of people, people's struggles, memories, and resistance. Also visit underthebananatree.org to follow their socials and subscribe to their YouTube channel where you can find and access the recordings of previous webinars and conversations like this, right? So today's discussion takes us into the intersections of memory, sound, and care, particularly through the lens of Tamil plantation histories, where we'll explore how songs, storytelling, and archives carry the lived experiences of indentured laborers, voices that often get silenced, or you can also call it romanticized in mainstream narratives, but then we rarely get to see or hear that, right? So the conversation tonight is centered on dignity, consent, and collective remembrance, and also on imagining the possibilities of reclaiming narratives from the sites of trauma and struggle, like what you could have read in the abstract and the posters that we have distributed earlier. Right. So together we ask questions like, how can archiving become a generative space for healing, solidarity, and imagination? And is it possible to strategize the archive as a relational and transformative politics of care? Right. Before we go further, I do have two questions for the online viewers. Like, you can just raise hand through your applications, right? How many of you have lived in estate plantations, or perhaps have heard stories from your family members about life in the plantation estates? Just some raise of hands on your app and so on and so forth. How many of you have lived in estate plantations, or perhaps have heard from your family members about the lives in plantation estates? Anyone? None. No one have lived. Okay, Gogu. All right. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay. So anyone have has roots that can be traced back to tea estates in Cameron Islands? We always talk about the rubber tree estates, right? Not the tea plantation. Anyone? Okay, cool. But that's where my origin, actually. I came from Cameron Islands. I mean, my ancestors, you know. So since we have some time, I just want to share a small anecdote about my ancestral past, because we are talking about plantation and so on and so forth. Right, my maternal ancestors, before migrating to Malaya, actually made a recce, a kind of survey to several countries, including Malaya, now Malaysia, of course, Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, and Burma, now Myanmar. And they after observation, decided that Malaya would be the better place to start a new life. Looking back, I think probably it's one of the good decisions, given the caveats and all those things, And then they settled in Carey Island, around Teluk Panglima Garang. And then my grandmother married and she moved to Cameron Islands. So my paternal lineage is in Cameron Islands. So the second generation, that includes my grandmother and her siblings, what they did was they raised the younger sibling and ensured that he received an education. And then later he graduated and found a job in Kuala Lumpur and migrated to Kuala Lumpur. And then he helped to educate all the siblings, all the children of his elder siblings, including my father, and about 15 to 20 of them, right? So when looking back into the topic and so on and so forth, I found that this story is more than a family history. It also represents care, the question of solidarity and intergenerational upliftment and so on and so forth. That reminds us that even within the structures of labor and inequality, people found ways to care, to educate, and to build futures together. I think we all kind of share a similar history, similar roots, and so on and so forth. Which brings us to the heart of today's session as well, right? So let's meet our speakers for the evening. Of course, we have Gogularajaan Rajendran, a filmmaker and currently the talk of the town, whose documentary, feature-length documentary Araro Ariraro is now under production. His work, for those who may not yet know, explores the experiences of Tamil indentured laborers and plantation folk songs. Based in Kuala Lumpur, Gogularajaan is dedicated to telling Malaysian Tamil stories, blending horror and humor through provocative poetic approaches. As a descendant of South Indian indentured laborers brought by the British to Malaya, he feels compelled to voice the untold stories of their ancestors. Right. And then joining him as a discussant is Nur Natusha Nusaiba, researcher and co-founder of Imagined Malaysia, an organization that promotes historical literacy and engages with current issues through a historically informed perspective. Noor graduated with an MPhil in World History from the University of Cambridge as a recipient of the Tunku Abdul Rahman Fund at St. Catherine's College and holds a bachelor's degree in international relations from the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. Her research interests include history of political thought, Islamic studies, Asian studies, and international development. Right. So with that, I welcome everyone. Let's begin this evening's conversation. And of course, I pass to Gogo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for spending your time here. Let me share my... Okay. So, okay. So my name is Gogu, and I'll just jump into it, and then we can discuss later. பாலு மரம் வெட்டலான்னு பழைய கப்பல் ஏறி வந்தோம் 45 காசை போட்டு நட்டெலும்ப கலட்டுறானே 35 காசை போட்டு மூட்டெலும்ப கலட்டுறானே. So this is a song, Tamil folk song that were sung in the Malaysian plantations. Probably looking at its content, it might be from the time of the early immigration of Indians to Malaysia. How beautiful, just in this 6 sentence, there is so much things already, like the migration and then the oppression, and even the difference between gender. So back in the times, they were like the male and female were paid differently, and the male like worked standing up, so their back is broken, and the female was squatting, so their joints are broken because of this. So so this song is one of the folk song that was collected by Dr. R. Dandayudam. Dr. Dandayudam was lecturer or professor in University of Malaya in the 80s. So this project where he went around to the plantations in Peninsular Malaysia, and he met with the laborers who were at that time was probably the last generation who were still singing folk songs in plantation, and he arrived at the right time and he managed to collect these songs. The project, the collection was from mid 70s until mid 80s, and because of the folk songs is the oral tradition which been passed from generation to generation. Even though it was collected in the 80s, the stories span for like really long time. So we can see the songs that are sung from back in India where they were still in famine, and then they how they were enticed into coming to Malaysia by the Kangani, and the boat journey, and how when they arrive here, it is not as what they were promised. So everything up until the independence is recorded in the folk song. So somehow after independence, they have stopped singing. So there are about like 500 folk songs recorded. And this project is self-initiated by Dr. Dandaidam. He was doing it by himself with the help of few students. So unfortunately, before he could complete the project, he passed away. So his family, after 10 years, um, they completed the transcription and then they published it. So the picture on your right is the event, the launching event which happened in Malaysia. Yeah, so I found this book after 30 years. It After 30 years, and by the time I was already researching about the life of Indians in plantation, and I was looking for I so what my research was focused on interviews, and somehow in the interviews I felt like distant because the Indians have moved out. Most of the Indians have moved out of the plantation, so there's a distance in the time and also space. So I was looking for something that is more immediate and more that can illuminate the emotion of the past rather than facts. So, and then I arrived at this book, and the song that I read, the first is the first song I read in this book, and I immediately know this is the path that I should take, and I felt like suddenly it's a very strange feeling, like because I've been already has this yearning um, to get close with my ancestors. And then when this song reached me, it felt like all the gaps between me and my ancestor has shattered.
Yeah.
Shattered.
I know.
So
I'll listen to you.
yeah. So yeah, I felt like it's as if they are speaking directly to me. There's no boundary. It can be scary sometimes, but I take it positively. And so I started to dive in this book and see um, at it. And because of Dr. Dandasan was not present at the final stage, there were some errors in the transcription and some like this. So it was a little hard for me to get in. And on top of that, these are songs, right? So it is only complete if with the melody. So I in the forward of the book, which was written by Mr. Murasu Nedumaran, who was also helping him in the research, he mentioned that Dr. Dandaidam has taped the songs wherever he went in the plantation. So I was so happy when I read this, and then I tried to contact his ex-students, his family, but sadly no one has it. Even didn't have a copy, sadly. So what I'm left is only the lyrics of these 500 folk songs. Um, and that's when I took the journey to the next stage where I I tried to engage with singers, folk singers. So in the beginning, I tried to find folk singers in Malaysia, but the folk tradition has somehow died in Malaysia or transformed into something else. So there was no one that could that has that capacity to do this job. So I I traveled to early this year. I traveled to India, and thankfully, these folk songs that were sung in Malaysian plantations, this has a big root. It's not. it's not folk songs that were sung from scratch in Malaysia. It has a deep root from the folk songs that were sung by the working class in India. And folk songs work that way. Like it is never totally original. It always has remnants of the songs from the past, and so folk songs lives in two worlds. One is so ancient that we don't know where it comes from, and another world is it's so present, contemporary. Like so that's how folk songs work, and that's how the folk song in Malaysia also uh, originated. So in the beginning, the Indians in Malaysia, they were singing folk songs uh, which are directly from Tamil Nadu. So there's no modifications. It was probably sung out of homesickness, and only later this the songs evolved into talking about their uh, current state, expressing their surroundings and experience. Uh, so, uh, so that was my hope, that I can still trace back, and also the in Tamil folk songs has genres to it. For example, there are festival songs, uh, there are elegy, there are lullaby, there are work song. There are many types of songs, and each songs has its basic melodic pattern to it. Uh, so so I went to India, and there is a university, Tamil University in Tanjavur, and in that university there is a department. So amazing. And then I met with Mr. Kamaraj, Dr. Kamaraj, who was the dean there, and he was so helpful, and he arranged me with the singers, and we met in my hotel room, and I had 3 sessions. So each of this picture is 3 different days, and I met with them. I spent probably about 4 hours, and we tried to reconstruct about 14 songs. And the conversation that I had with these artists were exhibited in Ilham, if some of you might have seen. And it's such a magical feeling, because when I first had that song, The Archive, um, I know something, I know this is something, there's something alive in it, but um, I had no complete access to it. It touched me, but I couldn't understand it fully. So, but then when these singers were singing it, and the words that I have already familiarized for a year, but then when they sing it, suddenly a new dimension open, and I can feel, like the something is rising with life. It's such a magical moment. And after they leave, after these few hours, they left, and then I'm alone in the room. So imagine, like, for the 3 4 hours you are with this such a big energy and like so much life, and then suddenly emptiness. And then I couldn't control my cry. So I remember I was crying for like for an hour almost, and I don't know what, I just cannot stop. It's like I don't know where this sorrow is coming from. Uh, I just yeah. So now I'm going to sing. So the song that I read in the beginning, apparently it is a opari, which is elegy or lament song. It is normally sung in the funeral, and it goes like this. பாலுமரம் வெட்டலான்னு பழைய கப்பல் ஏறி வந்தோம். பாலுமரம் வெட்டலான்னு பழைய கப்பல் ஏறி வந்தோம். 45 காசை போட்டு நட்டெலும்ப கலட்டுறானே. 35 காசை போட்டு என் மூட்டெலும்ப முறிக்கிறானே. So I worked with the singers, and after my trip, we also reconstructed about 20 songs more. So there's selected 30 songs. So there's about 30 songs that we have worked from out of the 500 folk songs. But then I felt I still feel this it can come out more, like there is still life that can fleshed out more from the songs. I imagine it like this archive as a frozen ice. So I'm slowly heating it up with different things to bring it out. Like there's something inside of this ice cube, which is the essence, and I'm trying to do many things. So after I reconstructed the songs, the next thing that I wanted to do is to, because the songs, the singers are not from Malaysia, so I wanted to bring back the songs. And my family was working and living in the plantations, and I'm the fourth generation, and my dad is the first one to move out from the plantation. They were in Brooklyn Estates near Banting, in Banting. And so my idea was to bring back these songs and give it to my uncle and aunties and my parents, and bring them back to the plantation they were once living in, and make them to perform it. So obviously this is such trauma-inducing method. So I have about, my father has 10 siblings. So only 5 of them agreed to take part, participate, which I completely understand, because it's, the wound is so close still, and they simply cannot face, not ready to face it yet. So we went to shoot, and we shot about 14. We shot reenactments where my family performed 14 songs in the plantations setup, and we just wrapped the shoot 2 weeks back. So I would like to share something. So I want to do a case study, because I think in each of the stage so much thing happen, but when the people themselves sing the song, that's where the real healing or transformation happens. So I would like to choose a song that this is one of the most prominent song in the film, and also the longest song, and it is titled as "The Confession of a Coolie Woman." So this song begins. I will story tell this with the characters, and so how I shot. So imagine this character. Her name is Yellamal, it is 4 a.m. in the morning, and she hears bells, and then but she don't want to go to work. She's lazy. It seems like she's lazy, but then there's something more that she's not telling. And in midway, her husband is rushing her. Let's go to work. Let's go to work. So this song, I have separated it into 3 parts. So this is the first part. So I'm gonna sing the song as well, and I hope you can read the translation. உள்ளத நான் சொல்ல வந்தேன் கேளு, காலையில 4 மணிக்கு கேளு, உள்ளத நான் சொல்ல வந்தேன் கேளு, கிழக்கு மணி அடிக்கும் போது டிங்கு டிங்குதான், கிழக்கு மணி அடிக்கும் போது டிங்கு டிங்குதானா, போக விட்டா சோறும் இல்லே, ஐயையோ என்ன செய்வேன், போக விட்டா சோறும் இல்லே, ஐயையோ என்ன செய்வேன், பெரிய மம்மட்டி எடுத்து புறப்பட்டு நான் போனேன், சுருக்கா வரலேன்னு ஐயா அடிச்சாரே, அந்த கம்பு எடுத்துல அடிச்சாரு கங்காணி, ஐயையோ அம்மா அப்பா அடுக்குமா, யாருக்குத்தான் பதில் சொல்வேன் துரமாரே. And then her husband calls her. சாமக்கோழி கூவுது எழுப்புறான், சாமக்காரன் வந்து கூப்பிடுறான், விறுவிறுன்னு தண்ணிய போடு எல்லம்மா, ஏன் இடுப்பு துணி எங்கடி வச்சே எல்லம்மா, விறுவிறுன்னு தண்ணிய போடு எல்லம்மா, ஏன் இடுப்பு துணி எங்கடி வச்சே எல்லம்மா, துருதுருன்னு பேசிக்கொண்டு துரையும் வராண்டி, குசு குசுன்னு பேசிக்கொண்டு ராமணி வாராண்டி. So they pack their things and they rush to the master call. So in the morning, they have this master call, where they gather, and the Kangani, the supervisor, will read the names, and then he will assign each laborers to each lot, and each tapper has to tap about 300 to 400 trees. So so that is one lot, and so this scene is where the Kangani is calling out each the names. And Yelamal is singing. ஏட்ட பொரட்டு ராண்டி என்ன கூப்பிடுறான், புக்க பொரட்டு ராண்டி புள்ளாய கூப்பிடுறான், முறுக்கு மீச தடவிக்கிட்டு முனியம்மாள கூப்பிடுறான், 5ஆம் நம்பர் தொங்கலிலே அவளை வெட்ட சொல்லுறான், 8ஆம் நம்பர் தொங்கலிலே என்ன வெட்ட சொல்லுறான், குமரி பொண்ணை பார்த்து பார்த்து குடுக்குறாண்டி நிறைகளே, குமரி பொண்ணை பார்த்து பார்த்து குடுக்குறாண்டி நிறைகளே. So apparently the Kangani assigns the lots that are further to the girls, and he has to supervise how they cut the trees, and when he goes to see them, see the work, he misbehave with them, and the song continues. ஏழாம் நம்பர் பள்ளத்துல எள்ளு செடி தோட்டத்துல ஏழாம் நம்பர் பள்ளத்துல எள்ளு செடி தோட்டத்துல என் சொல்லி வெட்டும் போது எல்லாம் மால என் சொல்லி வெட்டும் போது எல்லாம் மால அந்த வெட்டு பாக்கும் கங்காணி அந்த வெட்டு பாக்கும் கங்காணி விறுவிறுன்னு போய் தாவணி புடிச்சாரு தங்க காப்பு என்று சொல்லி கைய புடிச்சாரு விறுவிறுன்னு போய் தாவணி புடிச்சாரு தங்க காப்பு என்று சொல்லி கைய புடிச்சாரு. Heavy song. So when I was shooting this, so I was the Kangani, as you can see, the guy in the black coat, and my mother is the is the character Yellamal. So the scene is where the Kangani is dragging Yellamal. Uh, well, so the supervisor has to check if she has tapped it correctly or not, and sometime if they tap too deep, it will cause injury to the tree. So that is bad for the uh, next round of yielding. So they will give warning, and this is what the supervisor will come and see, and then so normally he will he will instill fear like, oh, you are, oh, what is this, and then he will make his move, and then he will drag her. So in the song, it ends at the point where he holds hand. But in the Tamil context, like holding hand is already like uh, is a symbolic way of saying she's been abused. So when I was recording this scene, my auntie was not needed in the scene, but somehow she wanted to come. Uh, so this is my auntie. She wanted to come. So when we were shooting the scene where the Kangani is dragging Yellamal, uh, my auntie suddenly said, "Oh, that's not how he did it." And then I was like, everyone of us were quite shocked, uh, and she said, "That's not how he did it. Uh, he will." And then she proceed to show how, like how exactly what happened in this condition, and then she confessed to all of us that it has also happened to her, uh, but then she somehow covered it up with a sense of humor, like she's telling this super shocking thing, but there is she don't want to confront the weight of that thing. uh, she'll say, and then she'll laugh it. So Uh, so apparently when she was young, she's the one in the right. So when she was young, she was a feminine person, but because of this risk and the abuse happening in the plantation, she become so tough. She like had to pretend that she's tough, and then people in the plantation call her rowdy, the rowdy girl, like that. And there's so much things she shared. But then what was interesting was she she suggested she suggested to the character who is playing Yellama. She said to her, when he come, you have a tapping knife in your hand. You should tell him, if you touch me, I will slice you with this knife. So she suggested this scene, and then we shot it as an alternate ending to the song also, where she defends with her knife. And so yeah, so my auntie, I like kind of co-directed this song as well with me. And after the shoot, I I went to hug her, and then suddenly she broke like she shouted almost like into cry, and for some time uh, it was super heavy. Um, but I hope it healed some part of that wound. Uh, hmm. It's still heavy for me because it's still it just happened. But when she hugged, she told something very sweet. She said that she see her father in me somehow. So we become so before the shoot I'm quite a shy uh, person in the family, and I'm whenever there's a family function I'll hide in the room. But after this project, somehow I become super close with the family. And in the Deepavali this year was quite a 360 shift. So so I think that's but yeah, I want to conclude something like the of my sharing. But so uh I probably you all know this already. So but then it's for me it was I realized that history is not a dead thing. Uh, it is really something that is living inside. uh is still living. It's we should see it like a breathing thing, and not a dead thing in the past. Uh, I guess, yeah, like I said, uh probably it is quiet because it's frozen, but that doesn't mean but that's like there's still life inside. We if we give enough heat to it, it will melt, and it will reveal itself. And when it reveal itself, it will, I mean, all the thing we are doing, the history, the art, is ideally to understand ourselves better, and it will inform who we are. But we have to give enough concentration and massaging to it, and it will open up. So this picture is, I just wanted to end it with this picture where that baby is not me though, it's my cousin, but the grandma is my grandma, and that is my grandpa, and the people next to them are my uncles. Yeah, so before every day of shoot, I will say, I created like a mantra, like a ritual, like a ritual. So every day before shoot, we'll do meditation with the family, and then uh, I will tell this uh, to them. Uh, நம் முன்னோர்கள் நம் உடலில் இருக்கிறார்கள். அவர்கள் பாடுகிறார்கள். அவர்களை பாட விடுவோம். Our ancestors are living in our body. They are singing. Let them sing. Yeah. So I end this presentation here, and we can move on to the next.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a lot of depth. Of course, when you sing, it's completely a different vibe altogether. And thanks for sharing all this rich and rarely heard insights. And of course, the rendition was very poignant and so on and so forth. It also reminds us there's a lot of things to be uncovered and explored, especially in the context of marginalized communities such as the Malaysian Indians, right? And it's very interesting that these songs are very intersectional in approach. There's also gender harassment, sexual harassment, talking about class exploitation. So very intersectional. I mean, like we are trying to coin in the modern days. I mean, of course, some tips for the modern day influencers and songwriters as well, how to keep it concise and meaningful as well. Right? Just to, I mean, since we are talking about history and so on and so forth, there was this book designed like a comic, was published by Insan back then in the 80s. Insan was later banned by, of course, Mahathir, called Mina. Mina, it's a name,
Okay.
which talks about the stories of child labor and sexual harassment in the estate plantation.
Oh.
Uh, it's a back and forth. So there's like two different versions. One is Mina, and then the other is a story about a Malay boy working in an ice factory or something. I can't remember the Malay version, the Malay story, but
Mm.
I mean the Malay boy story. But this Mina, I mean, if you get it or if I have it, then I will definitely share it with
Yes.
you, because Insan is no longer in publication thanks to Mahathir. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it to Netusha. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I just want to say I feel so honored and privileged to have been invited to be a part of this conversation. Um, I prepared some remarks just to provide a more historical background to the work that you have put in. And honestly, I'm actually at a loss for words. I'm speechless because I'm just um, I was also transported in time. Just a little bit of context. My on my father's side of the family, like they were raised in the plantation. My father passed away last year. He struggled he had a drinking problem, and eventually he succumbed to it, and his life was taken by it. But something that I've always navigated was also how a lot of it was tied to his trauma living in the plantation. And something that he never he refused to talk about, he and his siblings, was like, what was their childhood like? I knew that they all grew up in the plantation, but it was something that it was just like a no, like don't even bring it up. And there were times where I tried talking to my father about it when he was alive, and he would just burst into tears, and he wouldn't say anything. He would just burst into tears, and then I would not know anything else. So your work really touches me and really makes me feel close to him in ways that I couldn't reach because of the inner demons that he was fighting. So thank you so much, Gogu. And yeah, I mean, let me just go to my remarks, and then we can come back and discuss more in the session. Um, your filmmaking, it listens to history, not through official archives or state records, but it's through breath, rhythm, and voice. You remind us that the plantation is not just a site of labor, but it's of listening to what endures, what aches, and what refuses to disappear. The title, The Plantation Afterlives, captures this so perfectly. The plantation never really ended. Its logic of extraction, depth, control continues to shape our landscapes and our moral imaginations. Your filmic practice allows us to hear this continuity in the songs of Tamil indentured workers, in the quiet dignity of our descendants, and in the silences that colonial archives try to bury. To fully appreciate Gogu's work, we need to remember how this world came to be. Tamil and South Indian presence in Malaya stretches far back. Tamil Muslims were already part of maritime routes by the 15th and 16th centuries, but the mass migration that defined the Indian population of modern Malaysia began under British rule in the 19th century. As the British extended their dominance over the Bay of Bengal, migration itself became an instrument of empire. Labor flows were regulated to serve imperial economic interests, and when slavery was abolished, indenture took its place, a new form of bondage disguised as contract. Tamil and Dalit men and women from southern India were sent across the seas to work in sugar, cotton, tea, and later rubber plantations, as well as railway construction. Their journeys were often mediated by European and later local recruitment systems. But the story is more complex than simple coercion. Economic hardship, drought, and the promises of recruiters intertwined to create a pattern of movement that was both forced and chosen, tragic and pragmatic. In Malaya, the Kangani system gradually replaced the formal indenture system. Kangani, meaning overseer in Tamil, referred to labor brokers who recruited entire groups of workers from their villages. By the 1870s, Kanganis became powerful intermediaries, supplying the colonial plantations with labor while binding their recruits through debt. Shipping was costly, so planters and Kanganis insisted that workers sign contracts for 3 to 5 years. Wages were meager, but debts multiplied. The cost of food, lodging, and even basic necessities. If a worker died, the debt did not die with them. It was passed on to their families. At its core, the plantation was a debt machine, one that consumed lives and reproduced itself through cycles of dependence and dispossession. As the historian Sunil Amrit observes in Crossing the Bay of Bengal, which is a great book, I highly recommend it, the brutality on Malaya's plantations in the 1870s and 1880s, I quote, stands in comparison with conditions on the slave plantations of the Caribbean. It's here that Gogu's emphasis on sound becomes so moving because for many laborers, song was one of the few means to articulate sorrow, longing, and endurance in a world that refused to listen. Testimonies from plantation inquests described a horrifying landscape of unmarked graves, workers tortured, flogged, or dying from dysentery, malaria, and cholera. Mortality rates were staggering. By 1957, the Federation of Malaya census noted that although about 4 million Indians have entered between 1860 and independence, 1957, 2.8 million had left, and much of the remaining 1.2 million had been wiped out by disease, snake bites, exhaustion, and malnutrition. Against this backdrop, the plantation song, which we call as an embodied archive, is both memorial and resistance. When the colonial archive is erased, the song remains remembered. When death was routine, the voice insisted on life. The first generation of Indian workers literally built the foundations of Malaya's economy. They cleared forests, laid railway tracks, planted rubber trees, and in the process made the land livable for others, like you and me. In those jungles and along those tracks, they built small temples and shrines seeking divine protection. These humble places of worship, often dedicated to Mariamman or Muniswaran, were not only spiritual refuges, they were acts of world-making. They carved sacredness into the landscape of violence. They stitched belonging into an alien soil. To this day, these temples stand as living memorials, markers of a moral geography built through pain, devotion, and endurance. Gogu's cinematic approach to song and memory sits beautifully in conversation with this history, reminding us that archives are not only paper and ink, but also vibration, resonance, and ritual. Gogu's work asks us, what does it mean to listen ethically to this history? Listening in his practice is an act of care, one that resists the extractive tendencies of colonial knowledge. The British extracted not just labor, but also sound. They recorded songs and voices as ethnographic data, stripping them of context and consent. Gogu returns listening to its ethical ground, not as consumption, but as kinship. In doing so, he enacts what we might call a politics of care, one that restores dignity to the people whose voices have been archived without agency. The plantation archive is transformed from a ledger of exploitation into a relational space, one where the listener is accountable to the speaker and where remembrance becomes repair. To me, the most moving dimension of this conversation is the notion of collective remembrance. For descendants of Tamil plantation workers, memory is both burden and inheritance. The trauma of migration, debt, disease lives on, but so does the capacity to care, to create, to imagine otherwise. Through songs, rituals, and oral histories, these communities have kept alive a sense of belonging that outlasts empire. This is why Gogu's focus on collective listening is so crucial. It transforms history from a catalogue of suffering into a shared act of rehumanization. So perhaps the question we leave with is this: can the archive heal? Maybe healing does not mean forgetting, but listening again, differently with care. To treat the archive as kin, not as evidence. To approach it as something we must tend to, not plunder. Gogo's work allows us to imagine such an archive, one where plantations' afterlives are not silenced but sunk back into relation. It reminds us that Malaysia too was built on the blood and labor of migrants whose songs fertilize the soil we now inhabit. The plantation may live on, but so does the songs. And in those songs, we might not only hear grief, but the fragile beginnings of repair, a politics of care born from the will to remember. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That has been very poetic, I would say, and very deep, obviously. Right. Yeah, someone also commented visually said, yes, correct, I agree. All right. Thank you so much for articulating your thoughts and also discussing what Gogo once presented and your point of views and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's move on to Q&A from audiences. I believe there's a lot of questions. So there's one question in the comment box. I'll read it out. Just want to understand the rationale behind going to India to understand the estate songs early part of this year rather than visiting other places populated by Tamil migrants experiencing similar situations in the plantations. Yep.
Hello, Malini. So it was more on not to understand his story, but more to the choice was more based on the craft of music. Like that was my decision making. So they were like a living. Is my voice clear now? Should
It is for me, but I'm not sure for the rest.
Okay.
It has
So
been clear.
you come
Yeah.
close. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I chose India because it was it had more resource for me to build and reconstruct the music. It was more on the craft of music, the choice. But I had a conversation. So when I went to India, I met a few researchers who were also making folk song research based on plantations in Sri Lanka, and also so the migration of Tamils or South Indians was not only outside the country, but there was also neighboring state. So there was a significant amount of Tamils who were also in the Kerala plantation. And in Kerala, they apparently it was a later migration. So, and this researcher I met who assisted me in Tanjavur, they they are people who are still singing now, and he's recording it that there now. So it was like you said, it felt like yeah, it's illuminating in many ways as to understand how my ancestor would have sung also. So I'm asking him if I can join him to go. Maybe I'm planning to go to India again next year, early next year, and I'll meet him, and hopefully I can shoot for him. Yes.
That's nice. Also, to add a bit, I think because Tamil Nadu and Kerala was combined until the 1950s, if I'm not mistaken. It was under the Madras presidency, and which makes sense to what you have explained as well. I have a question. Why Tamil indentured laborers? Because we know, I mean, Indians, it's usually lumped together as Indians. What is the diversity, the inherent diversity within the so-called Malaysian Indians?
I think I it I one is the archive itself was it was a Tamil folk song. So it kind of decided its own path in that. But also I hope it won't. I in my mind I don't want to uh, identify. It's more like this project for me is really a personal history exploration. So what is close with so the like the history of so I'm trying to like not go broad, like really focus, like narrow my perspective into one little reality, which is myself and my family. And I hope that like when we see one thing with great intensity, we can go in depth in that, and hopefully it will reflect um, the truth in others also. That's my hope. Yeah.
Cool. There's one question in the comment box, and then we'll go to Malini who raised hand. First, I'll read this question from Darshana. Thank you for a great presentation. I'm curious to know more about if this revisitation of plantation social life through folk songs was also mediated via old photographs taken inside the plantation. Some of the images you showed us was really indicative of what audiovisual archiving practices. Just curious to know what other media you were interested in.
Mm. So my main medium is filmmaking. Um, that is my main medium, and obviously archive pictures were a um, great inspiration, but also archives, like Noor said just now, it was it all had a gaze of the colonials or elite, and it reduced the workers as to subjects. And like some of the archive, right, in the caption they don't even mention the laborers, even though they'll be standing in front, but the caption will be like rubber trees. So that's how reduced they are. So my hope is to uh, use archive of the songs and use visual to heal it. So in a way I want to reinvent the imagination of plantation, the visual imagination of plantation, through my visuals. And yeah, I hope that I hope that answered you.
Thank you. Thank you. Cool. Malini?
Hi, Gogu. Hi, Gogu. This is Malini. We've met before with Agilan and all that, for movie discussions.
Hello.
Okay. So I'm just because you're saying plantation afterlives, So I'm like, when you say plantation afterlives, it looks like you're talking about the whole, like, the Indian, So, but then it's not. You're only focusing on the Tamil. You're looking at the Tamil songs, Tamil lyrics. Okay, so it's more Tamil. So I think you should kind of state it, because you have the other ethnic groups. You have the Telugus, you have the Malayalis. Malayalis, okay, not so much into the labor role, but Telugus, yes, they were on the plantation as laborers. So they have their songs as well. And we would want to know, like, is there a kind of a similarity, or is the content of the song is probably the same, This is in Tamil and that's in Telugu, something like that. So I would rather you kind of like, keep the scope kind of, I mean, more focused and more kind of narrow it and say it's the Tamils you're looking at and plantation life after lives of the Tamils, So it'll be, I mean, you can actually defend yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's more of an aspirational comment, expecting you. Yeah, so we take it. Mohan, yeah, we'll go to Mohan next. I mean, unless you want to explain anything, Gogu, sorry, before I move on to the next question.
No, I think I already explained.
Okay, cool. All right. Mr. Mohan, yeah, Mohan.
Yeah, no, thank you. This is really powerful work, and I just appreciate, the vision and the research and the beautiful images and scenes we've already seen a little bit from the upcoming work. So thank you so much for that. I I don't have a requirement about this, like, you have to do this or you don't have to do that. But just a curiosity or question, because when you were singing the songs and narrating the recounting by your aunt and things like that, I was struck by the fact that while the system that they were in was a colonial system with white planters and white colonials being at the top of the power structure, but many of the people who were directly perpetrating the abuse were other Indians, right? What we would call today as other Malaysian Indians. They may be from different ethnic groups within the Indian community. They could be Malayali, they could be Ceylonese, they could be other Tamils as well, actually, right? Um, and also, I mean, in my experience, when like with the plantation community in Kuala Selangor, I mean, that down to like how unions were organized between like the staff union and the labor unions, they were like those power differences as well, even within that. This is not to take away anything, but I was just wondering or a critique, but I was just wondering how that added complexity of things, sort of like how you're thinking about it, or how does it come about? Because there is also complicity by these other groups, right? The people who took advantage of the colonial power situation, to enact sexual violence, abuse on plantation women were other Indian men from other groups, in different positions of power, sometimes speaking the same Tamil language, sometimes not. But we can see it as a afterlife is like all the kinds of, prejudices and what do you call it, superiority complexes that some groups have towards working class Indians, right, within the Indian community. So yeah, I'm not asking you to do anything different. I'm just wondering, is there what are you thinking about that layer of, messed up complexity?
You mean the caste divisions?
Caste and also ethnic. I mean, like Kanganis and overseers and all in plantations were often, I mean, like Ceylonese were recruited because they could speak Tamil and then they could be the overseers inside the plantation. That was true for, Malayalis and
Hmm.
other groups as well. So that's how the colonial system set it up,
Hmm.
right? And then but when it came down to day, some of these people would have been involved in the kinds of violence that people recounted. It might have been the white colonial master, and
Hmm.
it often was, but it all wasn't only the white colonial master who perpetrated
Yeah,
sexual violence and things like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. I I mean, I agree. I agree with what you said, and like I try to So what I'm trying to do in my work is of course try to represent the past, and this com this layers, ideally it is there. I want to say it, but I don't want to say it upfront, um, because I want the main I mean, for this project at least, the documentary that I'm doing, I want it to be um, really almost like a spiritual uh, experience of the plant, like the laborers, emotional and spiritual. Um, but definitely it will be there, because it is I mean, the whole structure is, no matter how hard we try to escape, quite unavoidable, I guess, and it will be represented. I mean, for this project, it is not my main. It won't be in the front. Yeah. Thank
Okay. Cool. Cool. Before we take another question, I have a question for Noor. Right. I mean, from your perspective, like, how do creative projects like what is being done by Gogularajaan, expand or challenge the dominant historical narratives against the Malaysian context? Do you think has the capability or?
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in the visual arts being able to reconstruct and retell history through different means. I mean, just to like draw like parallels with what I'm doing now for my like my PhD now is on Palestine, which is like not another work on Southeast Asia right now, but I mean, just to take the example of how, you know, um, in in terms of reconstructing histories and whatnot, film has been really important to the Palestinian imaginary, and it's reconstructed to oral histories and pictures and things like that. And I think like in the case of like, because for Malaysia, in the Malaysian scene, it's just something that's not unheard of, but it's underdeveloped. So that's why it's like maybe it's like difficult to imagine, but I think Gogo has gone really uh far and wide, and um like if you stretch people's imaginations by even just this presentation alone, and I think that there is a place, and it's like a methodology of its own. There's this and I mean, it kind of resonates with what Saidiya Hartman like uh phrased as like critical fabulation, which is like, telling social histories to ways that are invisible and unconventional. So I really see that that's what's happening and what you're doing. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it did. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, I have a question from Christine Yong. Hi, Gogo. I think your work is incredible. It seems that you needed to do a fair amount of reconstruction in order to put music to the existing transcription or lyrics. How did you reconstruct these songs? And have you found any similarities to the folk songs sung in the plantations of Kerala?
Yeah. Thank you, Christine. So yes, there are striking similarities, um, from the melodies to the lyrics, but I haven't get to hear much of the uh, songs. But their song is more on because they are in Kerala. It's tea plantation, and I also heard some folk songs in Sri Lanka plantation, tea plantations. So the this there are similarities, but also the difference based on the work, because um, somehow the work they are doing, what affects, because the folk songs originated the most, like the big chunk of folk song is from the paddy fields, where people, like hundreds of people, it's like a flat ground, flat land, and they are planting paddy, and it is such a tasking job because you have to be bending for like 10 hours, and to forget the pain, they sing. So all the folk songs have this origin of the root of pain to it, and so they sing. And then in the paddy fields, one would sing loudly, and the rest of them will respond. um, so that is in paddy field. But because we were in plantation, like a rubber plantation is different. Rubber plantation is such a lonely environment. Like I said, you have like one person have to cut 300 to 400 trees. So you are just one person and there's no one. So that is a big shift, and also it affects in the way they sing. Mm. So in the folk songs that were sung here, it's so much of loneliness and so much that talks about so much contemplative, confessional things that you would say to yourself, kind of songs, a lot in Malaysia. Whereas in the tea plantation, it's still somehow communal, uh, and they still sing together. But what is interesting in the tea plantation is uh, apparently there is a god. They have evolved a god from the tea plantation. It's called Kavatu Kadavul. So before they harvest, they will pray to this god. It's basically the plant lah, the plant tea plant, and they pray to it, and there's songs about it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Gods are very circumstantial and geographical indeed. Right. What I wanted to point out is that the universality of what you mentioned, that roots of pain and suffering, which reminds me back to the African southern cotton field workers, the slave system, which gave birth to the blues, music, and so on and so forth. So you find universality in exploitation, sufferings, and resistance as well, right? Okay, Jessica has a question. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really familiar with your works. I just saw the ad for this event. I saw songs and plantation, and I immediately registered. Um, so I understand that this is kind of a personal spiritual project for you, and I was wondering because I really love music. I think I'm coming at this from like the POV of someone who likes music more than someone who's a scholar. Um, so I was wondering, you know, um, when you look at kind of music as embodied archive, um, I was wondering, aside from the lyrics about pain and suffering that you noted, um, what I guess what makes music special to you in this process, and also what challenges do you encounter? Because I'm thinking about how something that I feel like sets music and sound apart is that I think the moment sound or music happens, it's it has already left. It's very fleeting. Um, And, I feel like it kind of opens up a lot of, I guess, interesting ways of looking at archives and history that's kind of different from other mediums. So, yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not very musical person, I mean, I have for so long I had bad taste in music because, like, as Indian, the main entertainment you're exposed to is the mainstream Indian movies, and it's so limited and can be, yeah, it's quite limited lah. So it's only later I explored music, and I'm still exploring it, and I but I really I fall in love with folk songs, the Tamil folk songs, uh, because it is what I like about it. It really doesn't matter if you sing. What I like about this folk song is that it's not performed. It is really it's born out of necessity, like the mother is trying to make the baby sleep. She's not performing to the baby, she's like making the baby to sleep. And then the song, so all the song has uh, like meaning and like a living purpose to it at that moment. And my grandmother would go to plantation, and then she will come back and she will complain in song. She just sings it, but she's not singing to anyone, she's singing to herself. And I really find this beautiful because it means it's it is not something that is separated. It's not like there is no audience and singer. Like we are like I sing for myself. Like there are songs inside of us, but we have compartmentalized and like delegated that job to others. But um, once we allow it, we actually the song will come up, springs. So I realized this because um, we did this project with my family, right? So my uncle and auntie, they were super reluctant in the beginning. Like also, like Noor said, just to think about the plantation is like super traumatic. But then somehow I mean, somehow they agreed, and they came, and then they are not singers, but then they sung. And it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. What matter is the truth. And but then by end of the shoot, they they started to sing. They like they started to like um, articulate things in songs, like create their own songs. Just even like for farewell, my auntie sing like a bye bye. She sing like bye bye song. um and it's in us, and you no need to write, you no need to like plan the melody, it's you just go for it. And doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but honor the song inside of us. And I feel that's really beautiful. And folk songs teach me this. Mm.
Cool. Thanks. Nitisha, do you have anything to add or?
Um, I was just thinking about the point you said about it being a necessity and not a performance. Because and I'm thinking about my grandmother. This on my dad's side, something that I figured was that she's definitely she was born in the plantation in Kolakrai, and but that's all I know about her. And the only reason why I know about it was because I did this oral history interview with her, and a friend of mine helped translate it. Um, and it was like just to focus on her perception of Merdeka and what she thought of Merdeka as someone who grew up in the plantation. And obviously she felt a complete disconnect with this wider national liberation, or like an imaginary, because like life just went on in the same way in the plantation.
Mm.
There was no difference.
Mm.
And something that I've always been so curious about, and your work made me curious about, was if if she were alive today and she heard these songs, would she know these songs? Were there similar songs that were sung in where she grew up? And yeah, I think I think that actually there was this other point, if you don't mind me just like going back, about this intra-caste conflict that happens in the plantation. It's something that I personally wrangled with as well, because on my mother's side, the I came from a lineage of Mandus. So that's something that I learned, that from Singapore, Johor, when once upon a time it was not like two separate entities, right? Legal entities. It's just one space, right? And um and learning about the fact that about what Siva actually shared in the comments about the clank strikes, and there were manifestos written against, complaining about ending the oppression by these Black Europeans, as they were called in the manifesto, which referred to like Telugus, Malayalis, and I'm sorry, not Telugus, Malayalis in particular, and Ceylonese Tamils, who were the Mandu. And so, on my mom's side, I'm Malayali, and so then it's having this interplay of different like parts of my history that are conflicting with each other. And I think from how you answered the Mohan's question earlier, you also like show us that just by the very act of just retelling these songs, you already highlight so much of history, and all the histories and all the conflicts and all the subtleties in the struggle of being Indian, in Malaysia. I think like that's why it's like, for me, it's like it's okay that it's focused on, um, you may be focused on like Tamil indentured workers, but but there's this thing about something I also learned from studying my own family history, was this um conflation and like fluidity of like ethnicity at that time. Like my great grandmother was Tamil, but she became Telugu because she married a Telugu man. And that's why like my family name is Naidu. And then my other grandmother was also Tamil, married a Malayali Mandur, and then she became Malayali. And then when he passed away, she was apparently ostracized, because like she's like, oh yeah, she's no longer one of us. She's no longer Malayali. That was the story that I learned from my aunties and uncles about her. And I was like, okay, this is like, is this something that we really like haven't really grappled with? Is this something that's been studied? But your work then helps like bring out all these questions and discussions, I think, even for me, especially for me. So yeah, I just wanted to like add that on and share with you. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very colorful history, to be honest. Thank you so much. And also how the patriarchal context
Yeah,
played
yeah,
in it. So,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. So I think due to the interest of time, I'm going to take in the last three questions. Are you aware of similar archival work being done in Sri Lanka, Fiji, or other places with indentured labor history? I think it was directed to Gogu as well.
Yes, but I can be more aware. If you have suggestion, you can tell me. I have a few um I have read and met few people from Sri Lanka, but Fiji, not much. Mm,
Mhm.
mm.
Okay, another question from Dimitra. How do you navigate the balance between healing work within your own community and using this project to raise awareness for others who are outside the community in modern day Malaysia? I suppose this is also related to the gays.
Mm, mm, mm. I guess I focus on uh, Mm,
Sorry.
wait.
Okay, okay. Sorry.
Okay, so I think my job as a filmmaker is to tell the story as honestly and as intimately as possible. Like it should be uncompromisingly truthful, so that existing itself is enough to raise awareness, I feel, um, among other community in the modern days. Um, yeah, I focus more on the healing. I feel like that is what I want to do, and I guess the awareness is more like a secondary benefit that I get. Of course, I want to like healing is the thing that I'm doing, but when I package it, I'm telling the story, right? So my audience is not just Indians, not just Malaysian, but also like everyone, like the Westerners who previously oppressed us, like everyone and the fellow laborers in other parts of the world in plantation, everyone. So I'm trying to tell one little story that is completely honest and as can be try to be truthful as I can, and hopefully it will reflect the truth in others' heart. Yeah.
Okay. This is gonna be one last question. So from Siva, Socialist Party of Malaysia. Great work, Gogo. Having been an activist mobilizing plantation workers in the 1990s, there are many other stories of workers who fought back the exploitative work system since the 1940s, from the clank strikes to many more. I would be keen to know if they had folk songs that they sang during their strikes. Folk songs have been used to educate working class to analyze the exploitative structure. Of course, PSM has been synonymous with estate plantation struggle, and I believe Brooklands Estate was
Mm.
also mobilized and it got free houses and so on. Okay, all right. Yeah, sorry. Back to the question.
So yes, there are a lot of, not a lot. There are a number of um, resistance songs that is archived in the book, and there are different approach to resistance. So there are more passive resistance, like how they tease the Kangani. So there is a song, Kangani Kangani Karupu Chatta Kangani Kondaila Puva Vechi Kutti Vanda Kangani Kundiyila Kattadikkidu Kuttiyappa Kangani. So it's like basically they are teasing the Kangani's ass. So it's so it can be like this, like a more softer resistant, but there are more upfront song as well. There is one really striking song, but this is sung by the woman. Um, so it's sung in a kumi beat. So, uh, தன்னன்னாதீனம் தன்னானே போடு தானன்னாதீனம் தன்னானே தன்னன்னாதீனம் தன்னானே போடு தானன்னாதீனம் தன்னானே. So the ladies are singing in this melody. They are singing. Um, the song begins like they are organizing the females of the plantation organizing themselves, and then they are saying, let's go to the supervisor and the white boss and let's kick his face. So it's a long song. So, பாதசரம் புள்ள பாதசரம் பத்து விரலுக்கும் பாதசரம் பாதசரம் புள்ள பாதசரம் 10 விரலுக்கும் பாதசரம் இருட்டு நாட்டுல போட்டு நடந்தாலாம் எங்கும் துளங்குமா பாதசரம் தண்டல்னு தண்டல்னு பார்க்காதீங்க தண்ணிக்கு தண்ணிக்கு போகாதீங்க அந்த ஒரு பையன்கிட்ட வரு மூஞ்ச விளக்கு மாத்தால அடிங்க பாதசரம் புள்ள பாதசரம். So this is a song where they say like yeah, let's go and beat that guy up, which is their boss. And then there is, like you said, there is songs that educate working class also. Uh, there is this. So this song is actually a union song, but then it is to reflect. It works almost like a mirror. I can't. I'll sing and try to translate it. Okay. தோட்டத்து துறைமார்களே நான் ஒரு பாட்டை சொல்லுறேன் கேளுங்க காட்டையும் அழிக்கணும் ரப்பர் மரத்தையும் நடணும் அதுக்கு புக்காவும் போடணும் தோட்டத்து மரத்தையும் வெட்டணும் பாலையும் வடிக்கணும் இஸ்தோரும் கேட்கட்டும் பாலும் உரைக்கட்டும் லண்டன் அனுப்பட்டும் செக்கும் வரட்டும் செக்கையும் மாத்தட்டும் மாதமும் முடியட்டும் சம்பளம் போடட்டும் திருமணத்தை முடிக்கட்டும் காலையில எழுந்திருந்து காண்டாவாளிய தூக்கணும் கடுமையான 100 மரத்தை நாங்க வெட்டணும் உழைப்பாளியா நாங்க இருந்து ஓடா தேயணும் உழைக்கும் மக்கள் நாங்க வறுமையா வாடணும். The song is actually basically telling the routine that they do in the plantation, like they have to like clear the forest, they have to plant the rubber, and then it's like a whole cycle, and they have to plant the rubber tree and then tap the rubber and then collect the rubber, the latex, and put it in the store, and the milk will be sent to London, and from London the check will come, and using the check they will they will get married, and then uh, they say they have to work every morning. They have to cut. They have to slave around in the plantation, but then they're still suffering. So this song is like for because at some point when you are suffering for too long, you can. It's natural to numb yourself to survive, right? So sometimes the union songs will try to like try to make them sensitive again with what's happening around them, so that they realize what is their situation. But there are few more, and I learned from Mr. Arul that they like later on the folk song tradition have vanished, but then he said when they go to like Brooklyn Estate and do their strikes, they adapt songs from the mainstream Tamil songs melody, and then they will modify it for their revolt, which is also interesting. Which is basically that's also folk song. I feel it's like a transformation into new form.
Thank you so much. I think we have had a very enriching, very rich conversation, and it's also time for us to bid goodbye. So thank you, Gogu. Thank you, Natusha. And thank you, everyone who participated in the discussion with the questions, insights, comments, and everything. So it has been very fruitful. And before we close, a heartfelt thanks to Pusat Sejarah Raya at People's History Center, an independent archive and historical research center dedicated to documenting, preserving, and reimagining grassroots history in Malaysia and Singapore. And of course, under the banana tree, a Southeast Asia-based collaborative archival network focusing on connecting community archives, researchers, and cultural workers to share methodologies and stories. You can visit the website and social channels, pusatsejarahrakyat.org and underthebananatree.org. You can view the conversation and you can share it with your friends as well. Thank you so much. Good night. All the best with your projects and looking forward to it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much, uh, Noor and Bharati. Yeah,
No
appreciate it
worries.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Oh, Gogo
All
already
right.
ciao.
Yeah, Ida Chow.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to send. Yeah, first of all, yeah, thank
Okay.
you so much. So glad that
Okay.
you guys agreed to do
Thank you.
this. Yeah, learning so much from everything. Yeah,
Thank you.
cool. Have a
Hopefully
good
it was
rest.
hopefully it was good. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, of course,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Natusha,
Okay.
is it possible for me to have the text? Because I think this is a very important reflection that you
Yeah.
share with
Yeah.
us.
Have
Yeah.
my what?
Your reflection earlier
Yeah.
session.
I'll
That,
send you the
yeah,
I'll send you the text.
yeah. Cool, cool. I think we're actually going to, oh, sorry, I think it's better for me.